Do you have to do much work to these blocks before, compared to, you know, your normal cast engines?
There's a little bit more involved just because of the liners being separate. So they have to come out and some machining done to the deck surface and the liners themselves.
So the liner's in there when you get the block?
The blocks come from Bullet, complete.
Yep.
They're sort of semi-finished, so we hone the bores to the final size. But before we do that, the liners come out and the blocks decked, the tunnels line honed to check the alignment and stuff like that, get it to size. And then, the liners are refitted, clearanced for the aluminium rods. Pretty much other than that, you're ready to go.
I see a lot of questions online in regards to barras, you know, grouting them.
Yeah.
So these actually have water in them?
These do.
In the block, I mean?
These two here are wet blocks with a dry deck, so no water passing through the head gasket. But running down the side of the block and then out and into the back of the cylinder head without passing any water through the head gasket.
And these three are all filled with Nitto. This is all Nitto components, isn't it?
Yep, all Nitto 3.8 litre drag combos.
Now that you've finished your coffee, Frank,
time to get into it.
you told me we're building not one, but you want to build 3 Barra engines today. Billet blocks. Have you bit off a bit more than you can chew or what?
I usually get myself into these kind of situations, Luke, and you just happen to be here all the time to catch me out.
Yeah. Now, we've filmed quite a few V8 engines together, but never a 6.
Alrighty.
But you guys obviously do heaps of 6 cylinders, RBs, 2Js.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't do as many as I'd like to do. Michael and Jake do the majority of them, but we work as a team, and you know, the point of assembly has come into my room, and we'll get these together. We thought we'd like to share it with everyone. Not everyone gets to see a 6-cylinder, a high-end 6-cylinder going together, let alone 3 of them. It's definitely not a point of showing off. It's just a point of sharing it with people that don't get to see it every day, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'll be the first to admit, I've never actually seen a Billet Barra block up close.
Yeah, they're nice to look at. Darren
beautiful bit of kit.
Yeah, Darren from Bullet and his team has put this Barra program together, and I'm sure there's more out there. Like, it's not the only one, but we have a good relationship with Darren at Bullet. The time came where we started breaking blocks a lot. Now, either we're tuning them really bad, but they are running in the 7s in big cars.
That's one thing to take. You've got 3 engines here, but all 3 owners of these engines have all run into the 7s.
Yes.
So they're already at the point
with factory blocks.
With factory blocks, yes.
Yeah. One of them is Josh. He has an XW Falcon. He's gone like a 780, high 780, 790. Then we've got Sean with the XD.
Both of those cars, not exactly what you'd call aerodynamic.
No, and they're full weight. I mean, it shocks me how heavy they are with a 6-cylinder in them. I thought a 6-cylinder car will always be lighter, but no, they're still up there in weight. Sean's got an XD Falcon, and he's run in the 780s. Then we've got Warren Allen from Queensland. He's currently in the last probably 12 months bought Corey Jackson's old FG Barra, built by Next Gen in Pakenham, Melbourne. He came into it buying a car that only had been run on the hub dyno, and the engine had been here on the engine dyno,
So
which you
that
filmed.
was the one we filmed, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we had a few issues where we hurt some engine bearings and so on, but we got on top of that, went to the racetrack. We probably did a couple of outings working out the gear ratio and working out the tune-up of the engine and what the car actually wanted. And the result was a 744 at 188. Yeah, he's dying to get back out there and seeing if he can pick away at that 744, you know.
And you're saying that's not exactly a light car either, even though it's...
We put it on the scales. Like, I was curious to know what it weighed with him in it. I think it tipped the scales at like 3980 pounds, which I don't know what that is in kilos, but I'm tipping it's between 17 and 1800 kilos. When I say it's a street car, it's not, you know, just driven off the street, put a turbo and a tune-up in it and it's gone 740. The car has to have a roll cage, otherwise we can't run it, at the proper racetracks with all the safety gear. The original owner chose to put a 9-inch in it. That's how the car came, so it doesn't have an IRS in it. I would have been curious to see how fast it would have gone with an IRS, but I'm not going to lie, it is easier with a 9-inch and hopefully this new combination will let us pick away deeper, into the 7s and 6s, hopefully.
Here at Fullboost Garage, we are now offering full mechanical repairs and upgrades, from logbook servicing, brakes and clutches, even engine conversions. We have competitive pricing. For all inquiries, hit us up today. So what were the failure points you were seeing with the cast blocks? They obviously got a reputation for splitting bores.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing we encountered was splitting the bores. It's very unlikely that we hurt the cylinder heads, but we have seen the cylinder head crack on the back. Luckily when they're on methanol, we can take the water out of them. And we learnt recently with Sean's one, Sean's we call him a very active person, and he was at Heathcote one day and he split a bore and we had to either call it or run it with no water. And
I remember that he told me.
We chose to run it with no water.
No water, yeah.
On E85, and it survived the whole day, and it ran a bunch of 7s the same day.
Yeah, he wasn't even sure whether he'd get down the track, and he'd run multiple 7s.
Well, he goes,
with a split
I'm going to do or die, and he goes, whatever happens, happens, and he goes, the motor's got a split bore in it, and I said, what's the worst that can happen? It's probably going to grab a piston skirt, but it didn't. No, it did the job.
Well, here's one you prepared earlier.
This one's just got a crank and one piston in, so we could do some physical checks on the final assembly. All the machine work's been done by the boys in the shop here at Dandy Engines. This one has a Torrington bearing at the front here, so we're not relying on the factory thrust bearing to take the impact from all the high converter pressure, transmission pressures. It's a Nitto crank. We like to use the Nitto crank. They seem to hold up with all the power that we throw at them. What else can I tell you? Like other than that,
all the rotating assemblies Nitto, is it?
Yeah, they've got. We use their rod and piston combination.
Yeah.
They sell a great package.
I like this, the way they integrate the caps with the girdle. It's
definitely a strong way. I mean, Darren's thought about this, and he's applied it to a lot of his block procedures, and I believe people have made probably close to 3,000 with a 6-cylinder, not with a Barra, with all various 6 cylinders, and definitely they hold together, so it works. As you can see, this piece is all solid. There's no water. Compared to the water blocks, they've all been machined out.
So 2 of them are running water.
These 2 will do drag week, where that's purely just going to be all out, no water in the block, methanol, as much power as it can make. That doesn't mean we're going to not push the limits on these ones. It just means that these ones will have water in them.
Fresh merch alert. If you're a fan of the FG Falcon, this is a perfect tee. Yes, it's a street car with its parachute and all, just as you'd see at the drags. Get on it. I'm going to get more designs out with more cars.
Just make sure you film this, Luke, because in the last couple of videos that we did, people seem to think that we put them together dry.
Doesn't matter how you put this together, people will tell you that there's better ways, and you'd have to agree. Engine building, everyone's got their own little... It's what works for the engine builder. The guy who's doing the final assembly, he's got to be comfortable with what he's doing. So this crankshaft is a slightly better material than their old crankshaft material. It's called EN40B. So this is their top of the line crank?
That is the top of the line, yeah. So this is the Torrington bearings that we use. This came about back in 2009 when we did a Holden engine, and we kept chewing up the thrust bearing. I put a single turbo on a 308 Holden, and I just could not figure out how to keep it alive with what we were trying to do. And my good friends at Proline Race Engines, I rang them up and told them the dramas I was having, and they pretty much gave me this idea. And it's been the best thing since sliced bread for a turbo car. Without that, it's very hard. Look, don't get me wrong, I've had customers survive many runs without one. Yeah. And the guys that said to me, I don't need one, all ended up coming back and getting one.
So for the cost, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. It's the best insurance you can have for a turbo car. It's a roller thrust bearing. It takes the load. When the converter's pushing on the crankshaft,
yeah,
you're not relying on a soft white metal bearing to take that load. You're relying on a thrust bearing. That will spin freely against the block and the cap, taking all the load. put in place like that. You'll see a close-up of the Torrington. Locates nice. Lou likes to machine the block and the caps. So if you see the machining over here, Lou has a special fixture for doing all the machining on his Torrington bearings. That will sit flat in there, taking the load evenly. Another thing the Torrington bearing is good for a Barra is, if you notice, the Barras only have half a thrust bearing originally. So it never had a full circle white metal thrust bearing. But they managed from Ford not to have a problem. So they obviously had everything sorted out pretty good in the factory cars. I know it looks rough, but trust me, it works. Funnily enough, the XW's got 7/16 studs in the world block, and that seems to hold the crankshaft in.
So 3 engines on the go here, Michael. This one is one of our favourite cars, the Taxi.
The Taxi, the yellow 1.3 cab, I think they call it.
1.3 cab, yeah.
This crank is off the shelf 3.8 nitto, and it's done 50 to 60 odd passes.
That was in the cast block.
In the cast block.
And it can go straight into this block now.
And all we did was alter the Torrington a little bit,
yeah.
And we're good to put it in. She's had a punishment and she still looks brand new. Great Nitto product. Yeah, do a lot of RBs. I've been working with Nitto for probably
You do a lot of RBs,
now.
Yeah?
Oh, God damn it.
So this is standard, Frank's phone ringing 24/7.
Yeah, so this one is the off-the-shelf Nitto crank, the 3.8, whereas these two motors have the EN40B, I think it's called.
So it's just a newer version.
It's a newer version. It's like the banger material that's coming around at the moment, so everyone's using it. And they're just really great to work with. You know, if you ever got a query or anything, they're always there to help and try and upgrade you with new pins, and it's good. It's good when they work together with you, you know. So another guy we had help us out in a short amount of time was Lock Industries. Helped us with a billet timing cover. So with a little window in it that can alter the tensioner fairly easily.
Yeah, so you don't have to pull it all off.
Yeah, at the track, you know, if you needed to make a little adjustment. So when you buy these bolts, sometimes they come with a dimple at the bottom, and sometimes they come without. And when they have a dimple, they've got to be bottomed out.
Is that for any stud you're talking about?
Any stud, if it has a dimple, it's designed to be bottomed out, yes.
Speaking of the bottom end, Frank, what sort of compression are you running in these engines?
I mean, this is a topic that can go on for days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everyone has an opinion and everyone has their theories, and I like to keep things simple. Now, I've made these 9-to-1. Down the track, maybe with a little bit more R&D and understanding of what's going on, we can go up. But at the moment, I'm starting at 9-to-1.
Yeah, but at the same time, these engines are going to have a lot of boost in them. So,
yeah. Even me installing the rings the way I'm installing them, you know, some people might say I should be using a ring compressor, but I have no dramas doing it this way. And, you know, we've made 3,000 horsepower with my small block Ford doing it this way. And the same with the compression. You know, my engine has 9-to-1. It works for what we understand and what we're doing when we're tuning them.
So this is a camera mount we use at Fullboost a bit. Very, very handy. Magnetic, that thing will not move. It's rock solid. You can buy these from 3-footed Monster.
So we've marked the pistons front. We've put a date on them. So it's just easy for us. You don't need to. It's just our way of making sure that we do it in a method that we're used to. They're a very tight fit to get.
I noticed that, yeah.
The rod through the ball, because there's such a, well, it's the largest rod you can stick in that cylinder.
So these alloy rods, what sort of service life do they have? You know, back in the day it was...
We've managed to do 100 passes on the set of these rods. But, you know, that's at a lower level.
Yeah.
Because we haven't done a lot of these at 100 pounds of boost or 80 pounds of boost, the boys will probably have to pull the oil pan off, we'll check the bearings, we'll keep an eye on it. I'm thinking you should be able to get at least 60 at high boost. We've got a 2J that's gone, you know, in the 6s, and that does like 60, 70 runs. Yeah. Never broken a rod, but, you know, in someone's eyes, we're probably not pushing it hard enough.
Does the aluminium rod, is it more likely to break or bend?
I've got one here out of my own car. So here's one that's didn't snap, and we'll say I missed the tune-up on my own engine, and it bent so bad that it was hitting the counterweight. In this case, they bend. I suppose if we ran it anymore, it was probably going to break.
So what are we doing here, Frank?
Okay, what we're going to do here is just check. The manufacturers like to have the bolt torqued, but as it's torqued, they like to check against the torque setting that the bolt has actually stretched. It's important to check with all the right lubrication on the bolt that they recommend, that the bolt actually stretches the amount they want to see to make sure that the torque setting is correct. Otherwise, my torque wrench is 80 foot-pound. Well, if the bolt doesn't stretch 5 to 6 thou, whatever the setting is, it means that your 80 foot-pound could be out and the bolt was left loose.
Yes, okay. And
obviously cause damage. So now we've set the gauge to 0. We'll put it on 80 foot-pound as they recommend. It's 5.5 to 7.5 thou, and that is right on just a little over 7 thou. So that bolt has stretched the right amount.
So you do that on every one?
Yes. It started off at 0 and now it's just under 7 thou. So we know that rod bolt's good to go.
Do you have that much play?
That's actually tight.
Yeah?
Some engines we do, the V8s, they're looser than that. This is my cousin Frank. He's my cylinder head man. Without him, half the cars you see will not go as fast as they do.
Oh my God, what a shit. Anyway, ready to go, mate.
Thank you so much, Frank.
You see a lot of people talking about dry deck. Can you explain it in layman's terms?
So in basic terms, factory, or when they cast a cylinder head from the factory, they have holes in each position that allows the casting to occur, and then they can break up the mold. And then they also use them as water passages to go from the block to the through to the cylinder head. What we like to do is we like to block them off. That way there's no water passages. So if you do miss the tune-up and you try and blow the gasket out, you don't have compression going inside a water jacket trying to pressurize your water system. The last thing you want to do is drive over that at 190 mile an hour.
What valves and stuff do you run?
Supertech valves. Again, is it right or wrong? I don't know. That's what we use, and it's worked for us so far.
You use them in a lot of different engines, don't you?
Yeah,
Supertech.
yeah.
So these three engines are all running the same?
They're all going to run the same rocker gear, solid cams, chain tensioners and gear sets.
And you've got some Calford cams, is that right?
Yeah, we chose to work with Calford on the camshafts. We've been friends with them for many years as well. We use their product a lot, it's nice. We also use Crow cams. You know, we've got a few Barras out there with Crow cams in there. It's just they were able to supply us the camshafts for these. We'll get to see what they do when they're finished. So we're at the point now of checking the camshafts, what we call dialing in the camshafts, and we're trying to work out we're trying to put the camshafts so the valve events occur when we want them to occur for peak cylinder pressure. It's just basically trying to work out when the intake valve shuts. We just want to know that number based off some of our data for other engines. And
so long day, Frank. We've got 3 bottom ends done, but we wanted to really get this engine finished in particular, didn't we? Because this is going to be going on the dyno and in the car and probably to Sydney pretty soon.
This guy is another. He will work day and night to go racing. We hope to have it in Sydney. What's today? Today's Wednesday. So it should be hopefully on the dyno Monday night.
Yeah, wow.
On a hub dyno.
Well, look at it, man. It's come up. It's a work of art.
Oh, look, a credit to all the people who make components for this. They've made it easy, as you can see. Look, there was a lot of work in the background that went on from the cylinder head work all the way down to the machining of the block. Jake has spent a lot of time putting these together, so today it looked easy for us to assemble it in one day. But it's not that easy, you know. There was a lot of hands on deck to make it happen, Michael and Jake. You know, no one gets to see Lou machining the blocks, Gus machining the blocks. You know, like it went through at least 10 sets of hands, you know, pair of hands.
Yeah, Frank and Brad were doing the...
Frank and Brad on the cylinder head today. You know. It's a team effort. I get to be on the camera with you and show everyone that we wanted to share with everyone what one of these engines looks like going together.
Number one question everyone asks is, what sort of power do you think a billet combination, and not necessarily what this would make, but what are these sort of rated to?
You know, my good friend Steve Petty did a 2J and it made 2,900 at the wheels.
Yeah.
Now, how much different to this it would be, I can't tell you exactly, but I know they're pretty close.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I don't have the capabilities to tune it to 3,000 horsepower yet, but I'm going to try eventually with Nathaniel at Fuel Tech Australia. So
I know you guys don't muck around here at Tandy Engines, so I know you're going to cramp some boost in it. And
look, we might blow some stuff up.
Yeah.
We, you know, you might see us have a bad day at the track, but we'll be trying, and we'll come back and fight again.
The difference is you guys always pick it back up and get it going, work out what's wrong and try and fix it and move on.
It's the only way, man.